Alrighty. So, with introverted thinking, what's so amazing about introverted thinking to me is it's about your first thought. Introverted thinking trusts its thoughts the most. It trusts its thoughts more than it trusts its feeling. Introverted feeling trusts its feelings more than it trusts its thoughts. Now, the truth is usually in the middle, right? But odds are, unless you have both of them in your middle stack, you have a better job. You have a better chance of being able to manage both as balanced as you can. But odds are, if you have them, there's always going to be a little bit of imbalance. You're going to lean toward what you have as a higher function. Now, one thing about introverted thinking that's so powerful, it doesn't overtalk. Introverted thinking makes one statement, and it only makes statements based on what it knows, based on what it's seen, based on what it knows is accurate. It can't go beyond that. Speculation isn't really the game of introverted thinking. Stating things as they are is the game of introverted thinking. They're not really banking on trying to meld whatever it is. They're more so focused on this is what it is. And it takes its next step based on that. Another thing about introverted thinking that's very interesting and very powerful is that introverted feeling, as I mentioned, trusts its first thought. Which means that when you think about it, the first thought that comes to your head is essentially the closest thing to the source of how you truly think about something. Now, an introverted feeler, on the other hand, they get introverted thinking too. They get the first thought that comes to their head. But then the introverted feeling kicks in. And that's when it starts to meld and adapt a little bit what that is to make it feel better for the person. And the minute that they do that, they've compromised introverted thinking. You see, the more that feelings get involved, it increases the degree that introverted thinking is compromised. And what you'll notice about introverted thinkers is they say things as they are, which make them come off a lot more tough, a lot more straight up. And that's why a lot of the time they can appear tougher, they can appear more like a badass. Because they're not over talking, they're not trying to make anybody feel any type of way. They're just saying things as they are, and people respect it. It gets them in trouble sometimes. But for an introverted thinker, they'll deal with stuff as it comes with their hyper observational abilities and deal with it one moment at a time, in order to retain the ability to speak the truth as is, as they see it in the moment. Does it make them right all the time? No, they're just right in the moment. They might tell you somebody say, you're not going to be anything in life. They might not say that, but what they might say is like, you're not doing anything right now with your life. And to me, for somebody to say you're not going to be anything in your life is, to me, it's more of a feeling statement. You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, if you have introverted thinking lower, like third or fourth, then that's where you start having skewed thinking because you feel certain ways as well, and it's hard to manage in that kind of regard. So introverted thinking plays out different depending on how high up in your stack it is. But if you're somebody that wants to tap into introverted thinking, what you have to do is trust your first thought, state things as they are, and be observational. Don't overtalk, meaning you say one thought at a time. You don't double text, you don't triple text, you're saying one thought at a time. Because any thoughts that come after that is because you feel like there's more that wants to be expressed. Introverted thinking, if you want to tap into that, you have to shut your feelings off and just say what you think, separate from feeling. Period. And what will happen is, one thing about introverted thinking, it has an ability to get into this flow. Because if you trust your first thought and you start saying things as they are, you'll be doing a lot of great stuff. Like you might see somebody with some nice boots. You'll be like, you got some nice boots. You're like, thanks. Just keep walking. You might be like, That was suave of that person to tell me that. Then you walk ahead and you're like, I want some coffee. Okay, here you go, blah, blah, blah. There's no over talk. You just tell people as it is. See your friend. Hey, what's going on? You know, boom, I'm going here. They're like, all right, people might follow you. Like you're on your path, like you're making decisions. Introverted thinking is a decision function. It's processing things moment to moment. You know, extroverted thinking, on the other hand, is kind of like, hey, you know, they might want to say, oh, I like your shoes, but then they might overthink, right? To me, extroverted thinking is the second thought. It's like you have your first thought, and then extroverted thinking kicks in after to be like, how are they going to counter to this thought? And now you're now gauging multiple thoughts and trying to find the most optimal thought. That's like what extroverted thinking does. Introverted thinking is just going to say the first thought. And what you'll find is the first thought actually gets to the core of it all the best. So introverted thinkers have an amazing ability to say simple things, but the simple things they say are so impactful. It's like those guys that speak very few words, but when they talk, it matters. Those are all of your introverted thinking dominant types that do that. You know, they don't over talk. Like even if you look at a lot of athletes and stuff, because a lot of athletes have introverted thinking because they have the ability to solve moment to moment on like a field or on the court. It's very much, it's not a lot of feelings and extra thinking, just like kick it or, you know, shoot it, opening, boom, like quick thoughts. Building, engineering is kind of like just focus. This connects here, boom. All right, next, boom. Okay, this goes here, next. I got to go back. Like for example, what makes engineers so good that have introverted thinking is that they know that the only way that what I'm building is messed up is if I messed up on a step. So their job is to go back and make sure that every step's been followed one at a time correctly. That way, if anything is off, we can identify it because that means something wasn't done perfectly. Extroverted thinkers like to skip steps. You know, we like to get to the end goal of things. Like extroverted thinkers like to get to the end goal of stuff. Like, all right, I want it to already be built so I can sell it. Or I want it to already be built so I can just drive it. Because I want to be able to do stuff with the extra with my thinking based on what's already here. Introverted thinking is more so focused on the process of building the motorcycle. Extroverted thinking is more so focused on just driving the actual motorcycle, you know? So it's different. Introverted thinking enjoys the process of finding the steps along the way because it knows that it becomes more brilliant when it does that. It gains more skills when it does that. You know, it knows that if you can build the motorcycle, then, you know, that's more powerful than just driving it because now you can build a bunch of motorcycles. But it's not even looking at it like that. It's enjoying the process of following the steps to get to a final result. Introverted thinking is following linear steps to get to a big finale. That's what introverted thinking enjoys. Extroverted thinking gets drained by those little steps. It wants to get to the big finale. And that's what drives the extroverted thinker. And then it can build on that big finale and put a bunch of big finales together to create a super thing. You know, and that's what extroverted thinking is great at. Introverted thinking is kind of like, I just want to focus on building and getting to the big finale, you know, because it's enjoying the process. The same way that introverted feelers are enjoying the process of dealing with emotions one moment at a time to then get to a happy, cohesive point with somebody in an experience, or to get to a point where it builds enough emotional intelligence to where it can utilize these skills with all kinds of people. But it's following a linear pattern of feeling because it wants to maintain the logical consistency of its feelings. It doesn't want to go up and down and oh, I got to go to work and be bored and then I come back and have fun. It wants to figure out how can I have fun while still being at work. You know what I mean? Introverted thinking is like, I'm not worried about that. I'm just trying to do the best job I can do moment to moment in the process of doing my work. Then when work is over, they're kind of having a hard time trying to figure out how to have fun a lot of the time. This isn't for all of them. But for some of them, they're just like, man, what do I do now with myself? I guess I got to solve something else, you know? So introverted thinking is removed from the feeling, trying to solve things. Introverted feeling is connected to the feeling, you know, and solving things drains it. Imagine an introverted feeler having to follow steps one by one. It's not that it can't do it, but at that point, they're feeling isn't being activated, they're not connecting with anything. They're not being able to learn more about, uh, you know, in terms of stimulating how they feel about things. Introverted thinking, they actually enjoy the process of doing kind of linear type of things and projects and stuff because it makes them feel like they're in their own space. Like there was a point, I remember there was a time when I was painting, and just painting, I would find myself getting lost. Like once you get to that linear space, you're just painting and getting it done, and you're just like, you start getting all of these connections in your mind because you're just following your linear process. You're not over here overthinking, you're not feeling, you're just in a flow, the flow state. And that's when all the dots start connecting and you get all of this powerful information. Their mind gets stimulated when they're working on things one at a time, like boom. Introverted feeling, on the other hand, it doesn't really get that experience because it's so busy feeling things all the time. So it's more so, what you'll find is that they both help each other. A lot of the big technical stuff gets solved by an introverted thinker, and then an introverted feeler is able to take it with their extroverted thinking. They're able to explain it in a way where more people can understand it and allow people to feel the power of that thing. Introverted feelers also have an advanced ability to communicate because, they're able to connect with people in a way where they know what triggers people a certain way. They pick up a lot of vocabulary because vocabulary helps them have a greater effect on the environment. They have this adaptability. They have this flexibility. They can feel their way through situations. They don't have to logically think. And that's where introverted feeling is superior. That's why you'll find introverted feelers find themselves more in the counseling spaces, dealing with people, influential in that regard. They could say things in a way that really trigger people and inspire people. They're fun to be around. They're great for people who to give you time away from just doing logical things all the time and really enjoying yourself. But then introverted thinkers are really good at having you kind of focus on the moment to moment things, helping you accomplish. Introverted thinking to me is like fire. One fire at a time leads, opens a path for people to go through. But to me, it's like daily, like fire, moment to moment. Introverted feeling to me is like water, moment to moment. It's one moment introverted feeler can feel so happy, the next minute if something bad happens, they can be like, oh man, right? They feel feelings on a very deep level, so it's a lot to manage. A lot of your artists, your creators, some of the greatest artists of all time are introverted feelers. And you notice a lot of them have controversy. A lot of them deal with depression. A lot of them deal with homelessness and really tough situations because it's hard to manage those feelings moment to moment because feelings are such a chaotic thing. So they really serve a big role because they're the ones that really pioneer the methods and the ways on how to deal with this thing that we call feelings that are so chaotic and not logical. And they make the difficulty of feeling logical for the person who's not a major feeler. And that's why you have therapists and counselors and, people who make books and artists that keep us entertained. All of this is designed to keep the tonality of feeling at a good level while we experience the logical elements of life day to day. Then you have your introverted thinkers who take care of the building, designing, the things that are separate from feeling, dealing with material, chemicals, structures, things of that nature that aren't emotion-based. And they orchestrate that so that we have things, roofs over our heads and nice design, things that are safe and effective for us to experience. And then you have the introverted feelers that make sure that the feelings are good so that we can enjoy these fixtures and structures, so that we're not just slaves. And for years and years, I think introverted feeling has been compromised and has been given a low value because more importance has been put on thinking, because that's like where productivity and things like that have gone. But we've seen where that's brought us to. It brought us to potentially almost having a world war. You know, we've already had 2 world wars that almost wiped out the dang world. And if we, you know, and if we want to avoid a third world war, we're gonna have to value feelings. So introverted feeling must be respected, and if you don't think it must be respected, you'll find out when people start trying to kill each other every day. You know, when it comes to crime, killing, those lower vibrational areas where there's so much drama and violence and crime, all of these things are done by people who just value thinking more. And I'm not saying it's all introverted thinkers, but what I'm saying is what makes somebody steal is they're not keeping the feelings in context of how would the owner feel if things were stolen. They're not thinking about if you kill this person, how's their family gonna feel? You know, that all requires feelings. But if you operate purely off thinking, which is just being ahead of the next person, and that's one thing about introverted thinking. Introverted thinking is all about being one step ahead in thought. It's always moving forward. It's not moving backwards. It's moment to moment thinking ahead of the next person. We're thinking, what's the next thing to do? We're not going backwards. What's the next thing to do? Feeling requires you to go backwards because you have to sit there and say, what did I do to make them feel this type of way? And now you're going backwards to understand how people are feeling. Thinking is like, what do I got to do to move forward? You know, because it's linear. It's like, okay, I built this part. What's the next part to put on here? You know, so one's going backwards. Feeling, the more you go backwards, the better your feeling is. What did I do in this situation? What did I do in that situation? What did I do in that situation? Wow, I did this to affect them. Dang, what about that time? Okay, now I'm learning how I made people feel. Or, you know, because in the moment you can see how you made them feel, but you can't process it until you, in order to process it and understand it, you got to be like, oh, what did I do to make them feel that way? That's going backwards. Thinking is like you're just stating things as they are, doing things moment to moment, building this. It's always forward. So if you do introverted thinking too much, you'll step on some people's toes through the process of stuff, and they will think you're arrogant a-hole because you never took the time to understand what you did to negatively affect people. And then there will be a major situation that will force you to reflect and go back. So it's better that you balance it out and try to take time to think back, or maybe connect with somebody that has feeling to get context on, oh man, what did I, okay, so then you learn to move forward with your thinking, but also be like, okay, now I know to not do this or that, and now I'm becoming better with my introverted thinking because I'm factoring in introverted feeling as well. If you're an introverted feeler, you're going back so much sometimes, and you're drawing, you know, you're an artist and you're capturing these moments in the past and emotions and putting them on paper and making art and design, but then you're not going forward logically in certain areas, and because of that you're stuck in life. And then you need an introverted thinker to say, bro, let's move forward. We got to take this action, that action, and now you're moving forward. So I challenge you, if you're an introverted thinker, start trying to think about, slow down a little bit and go back and reverse engineer some things that you've had in certain experiences, and what you'll find is that there's certain things you did to put some, to make somebody feel a certain way that might have created a certain experience that you didn't think about. And I'm sure y'all got to know, you feel what I'm talking about if you're introverted thinking dominant. And then instead of trying to do more and more and more to forget about what happened, that doesn't fix it. The more you do, you're just getting further away from what you did, but that doesn't change how the person felt or what happened, And then if you're an introverted feeler, you need to focus on moving forward. You need to focus on stating things as they are. You need to focus on not overthinking and overfeeling stuff, and really just focus on knocking one thing out at a time and moving forward. You need to move forward faster with more speed because you're moving too slow most of the time if you're an introverted feeler. You need to move forward and knock out things. The more things you put behind you, the more that you'll see in your life and your experience of life. And that's what's beautiful about introverted thinking. They put a lot of things behind them. They'd rather go ahead and see it for themselves and experience it than be stuck on something that they felt years ago that's holding them back. So if you're an introverted feeler, I want you to tap into that. I'm going to do a part 3, but for now, let me know if you're feeling it. Let me know if you're getting any ideas. Let me know if you resonate. I have coaching available. I got my life coaching available. Also MBTI counseling. I can do a live reading for you, let you know your type, break down some deep stuff about your type. I'm real good at the individual types, so keep that in mind. And with that being said, make sure you like and subscribe, spread the word, join the Patreon if you're interested. Got a lot of exclusive stuff on there. And aside from that, we'll talk soon. Part 3 is coming soon. Peace.